Hey guys, are you looking for a way to take your coaching practice and just turn it up? Like, is it hard for you to get past the idea that maybe, uh, like, I can actually help people, I can transform their lives? Or are you asking yourself, why am I not getting clients? Well, all these questions are answered in this interview with Luis Noriega as he dives into the reasons and the ways and the things that are really important, the core things that you need to be focusing on in order to take your business to the next level. So, how do we go from zero clients to actually starting to impact, make a difference, and create a lifestyle and an income and an impactful business where we're seeing results from what we're putting out? So many coaches, people who are starting in this industry, they get stuck because they don't know how to get traction. Well, he talks about how to get traction and how to see those differences inside of your experience as you're building your business. So this episode is full of extremely valuable information, and then I'll leave links down below for how you can connect with him right away. So sit back, enjoy, and get ready to learn. Get out that notepad and start writing it down, because there's all kinds of valuable information inside of this episode right now. All right, guys, without further ado, I would like to introduce Luis Noriega.
In regards to the work that I do, I think the thing that most people forget is the mindset, right? The psychology of success. And so when they get into online businesses or entrepreneurship, most of the time there is this pressure, and so we forget, like, and that pressure pushes us towards a lack mentality, a scarcity mindset. So we sometimes forget, like, wait, this is bigger than just like this month or these next 3 months or even this full year, right? It's like, what happens beyond that? Even if you succeed or even if you fail, so keeping the long term and short term in mind, because I know sometimes money could be a big factor for a lot of people. And so that will it was for me, for a large portion of when I was getting started, and I felt that it was distracting me from my core intentions, right, which was serving, helping, growing, improving, versus like focusing so much on what I lacked. Because in the beginning you don't have clients, in the beginning you don't have structure, and you don't have all these things, so it's very easy to compare yourself. So that type of mindset, and to know that it's okay, that it's a journey, a growth journey.
Is there something that people can do to help them, like, overcome that lack mindset? Because that's definitely something
Absolutely,
I'm
yeah.
I'm familiar with. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with that, it's really working on yourself, right? Working on improving what I call your money mindset, your belief systems around sales, around marketing, around success in general, or other wealthy people. And what you really have to do, the process is you have to first recognize what are those subconscious belief systems, right? What are those language patterns that you use, like, money doesn't grow on trees, or money will corrupt, right? Those types of language patterns, you have to recognize them. Once you do that, then you have to adopt a whole new money mindset. And then the third step is replace the old with the new, right? So instead of operating from the belief system of like lack, scarcity, I don't have enough, there's not enough money to go around, you switch the paradigm into seeing it from like an abundant standpoint. Like, wait, no, money is just energy, right? Money is just a medium of exchange, right? Or successful people, many of them have gone there through hard work, perseverance, right? Not just like greed. And so once you can recognize what's really holding you back, you could then pick up some new opposites of that, right? Some new opposite mindsets, or belief systems. And then the third step, like I said, is you started adopting them into your lifestyle. And I always do this process with my coaching clients because, like I said, in the beginning, they typically want, like, success, or they want clients, or they want like systems. That's what they need, right? Or I'm sorry, that's what they want, but what they really need is to clean up their mindset, to set a foundation that's going to be strong enough to support their growth. So that's one thing I learned from Dean Graziosi in terms of marketing is you gotta talk about what people want, because that will lure them in. And then once you have them in, and then I call it like a positive Trojan horse, is once you have them in, you give them what they want. I'm sorry, you give them what they need, right? So once you give them what they want and they're inside, you give them what they need. And most of the times it's like healing, overcoming past traumas, letting go of all those mindsets that are holding them back that they've been carrying from their childhood, right? And those types of things.
Totally. So,
Yeah.
so then, okay. So with what you do, what your focus is now, because you've walked down this coaching journey, you have created, not just found or discovered, but you have created your success in what you're doing. And I'm
Right.
curious, like what is it today that you feel like you do best? Like how do you meet people, or where do you serve them?
Yeah, so one thing that kind of like a superpower of mine, and we talked about this last time, was just the ability to connect with people, even if I've met them like for the first time or, first few times. And the reason why that's so special is because when you can provide a space that feels safe for someone, that will accelerate transformation, right? That will accelerate their ability to break through. And when you can help them be vulnerable, when you can help someone open up and really get to the core of it and not just be like surface level, like, yeah, things are going fine and, business is well. It's like, no, give them the space to really open up. They can face the truth. And when you can face the truth, I mean, the saying, it will set you free. And so for me, that's kind of like one of my core superpowers that I found out. Like my clients at the end of the call, I always love to ask them like, hey, what were some of your biggest takeaways, some of the biggest breakthroughs? And they tell me, you know what, I just felt understood. I felt safe. I felt like I could open up, I could trust, right? And so that's very powerful because I've had times when even myself, like I'm working with someone, it's like I don't know what's up with this person. Like I can't really open up. I feel like they're gonna judge me, or I feel like they're not really here to serve me, right? And so I've experienced that. Maybe the audience experienced that as well. And so that's a very important part of what I do is making sure I help people feel safe because that way they can be vulnerable, and when they're vulnerable they can open up and accelerate their transformation. So that's kind of one area. And then in terms of how I serve them, like I said, there's typically 2 or 3 levels. The first one is on the mindset part, creating that foundation. And then the second piece is the tactical, the marketing, the sales, the strategies, um, how to implement. And so once I do that, once we're able to break through all the, limiting beliefs or past traumas, then we could get into the tactical. Because even if you have, all the, like I call it the Bible of sales or marketing, and you know how to do everything, but then you don't believe in yourself or you doubt that you're good enough, right? Then you're not going to pick up that book. You're not going to implement the things that are inside that book. So that's the very first step, is working on their internal self-confidence and inner strength to be able to overcome some of those challenges that will rise as entrepreneurs or as coaches.
Totally. So do you so if you were to describe like your ideal client, like who would that be?
Yeah, no, for me, as someone who is a new coach, they are like a seminar junkie. They love attending events. They love going out there and learning and growing and connecting with people. An ideal client for me is someone. I have a recent client I just signed up her name is Cassie, and I mean this girl, like I said, she works on herself. She's been trying a lot of things, but the thing is that she's been trying to do it all on her own, so she hasn't really gotten those breakthroughs that she's after, right? And so it's someone like that who knows that they want another level in their business or in their life in general. And they've been trying different things, but they just can't seem to create lasting change, right? And so they come to a point where it's like, you know what? I'm done with all this like doubting and perfectionism and like just spinning my wheels, and I want to do something about this because I really do want to make an impact. So that's another piece, is someone who wants to impact beyond just money, because I know there's a lot of coaches out there which might be fine for them, but they're mainly in it for the money game, right? They're in it for like, hey, how much money can I make out of this? How can I achieve financial freedom and travel the world and stuff like that, right? Which is fine, but that's just not what my focus is. Is I want to help people who are really about impacting others and not just saying, yeah, I'm a coach because it gives me the freedom to like travel the world and work from my laptop. So that's an ideal client. Like I said, many of them, they don't know what their niche is. Many of them don't know how to close or how to sell, how to sell consistently. They know something about marketing, but like I said, that's what their struggle is how to put themselves out there, right? How to overcome these fears of like, am I good enough? Will this work for me? What will people say? All those things. And so that's the perfect client for me, someone like that.
Well, I can definitely attest to being there, in
Yeah.
that place where it's like there's so much information out there coming at us all the time about this is what you got to do. Like just this morning I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this ad like make 10,000 a week as a coach, and there's so
Mhm.
many people who are peddling
Yes.
this kind of information, when it really comes down to it though, like with what you're talking about is the tools and the strategies to be able to actually get traction, so you're not like just a tractor in the mud with its
Yeah.
wheels spinning, like where you actually
Yeah.
start seeing that momentum and movement, man. that's
That's it.
that's huge for people who are trying to break in this industry, because I think that it's like there's all this time of getting ready and building it and getting
Yeah.
yourself ready, because like what you're talking about, overcoming all those limiting beliefs, those keep us from really being able to impact the people the way that we want to impact them. So let's say you get through that, and then it's that next phase of getting
Right.
the traction and moving. And so I think that what you're doing is so valuable for the people who feel like their wheels are just spinning. It's like, what do I do next? Like, I've got people that are
Yeah.
listening to me or coming to me for help, but how do I actually turn this into like
Right.
something I can make a living from? Anyway, man. What I'm trying to say is, I think that that's epic what you're doing, and I hope that people really value and realize what it
Yeah.
is you're offering. So I'm curious, man. So you started on this journey, and you're helping people make these transitions. Like, what is it, or who is it that inspires you to do your best work?
Yeah, man. So for me, recently, I just had a baby boy. His name's
Yes.
Santiago. Yeah, so you know,
Congratulations.
thank you, man. Yeah, he's kind of like that next level for me. Every time my friends or colleagues ask me, hey, how's the baby doing? And I'm like, he's doing great. And they ask me, how is it to be a father? And I think it really, for me at least, it pushes me to always think about like what's coming up next, right? What's the future like? Because I see him, and I'm like, man, when I was little growing up, like we didn't have iPhones, we didn't have laptops, we didn't have tablets, right? And now I see kids, they're mastering technology like it's nothing, and they're up to date with all the latest information. So I look at them, I'm like, wow, how will the future be when he's 20, when he's 30, right? And so that really inspires me to be able to show up and take advantage of all these opportunities now, because sometimes we live like we have forever, and we're kind of taking it day by day, like I have time, but like right now he's almost 4 months old, so it's like what happened to those 4 months. I just still remember like he was just born yesterday. And so he's definitely one. Obviously, my wife, my family. I did a post the other day, I think it was on Monday, where I talked about the moment when I graduated from UCLA, and I got my bachelor's there in economics. And I remember just walking down to get my diploma, and I just see my family like up in the stands, and they're just rooting for me, they're cheering for me, and it just brought tears to my eyes because they were my everything, right? They are my everything. That's why I did everything that I did, is to be able to show them like, look, give back to the legacy that they've helped me build. So that's what it really inspires me, right? Is my family, just my parents, my brothers, sisters, my wife, my son. But then ultimately also it's my future self. There's a Luis in 2020, a Luis in 2025 that's kind of just patiently waiting, like, all right, when is it going to be my turn, right? And that Luis is like my highest self. He's on track of everything. He's playing at the biggest levels. He's not playing small. He's not holding himself back. So it's that vision of like, what else can I create? What else can I achieve? What else can I do, right? Because I'm just 26, and I understand that sometimes I feel like I'm 36, right? And I feel like I've already done a lot of things that most people don't do at my age. And so that inspires me, like, what else can I do? What else can I achieve? Because so in terms of my brand, I call it Luminary Life. Luminary Life. And so it's really all about how can you be a role model for others? How can you be a luminary, which is like someone who's paving the way, guiding the way for others, lighting the way, and being a beacon of light. And so for me, it's like, yeah, that inspires me to think about what can I improve? What areas in my life am I still struggling with? Because I still struggle in some areas, and I think that's part of the growth journey, right? And so one thing that Tony Robbins, my mentor, taught me was that business is a spiritual journey. It's a spiritual journey because it pushes you beyond your limits. It pushes you to think outside of yourself, because true business success comes when you're serving outside of yourself, right? And when you're playing the game to really impact millions of people or a lot of people. Because again, coming back to that mindset of money and success, that all comes when you can serve others, right? It doesn't come when you serve yourself. It comes when you serve others at the highest levels. And so that's like the last thing for me is like, okay, wow, what does my high self look like, and what do I need to do to get to that level?
That's beautiful, man. And I think something that you just said there, like it struck me, is like when you're serving others, that's when you're reaching for your highest self, and that's when you feel the most fulfillment inside. And for the coaches out there that are in the beginning and they're struggling and they're feeling that sense of lack, like it's only natural that
Yes,
your focus falls back on you rather than the people that you're trying to serve because you're in that
yes,
place. So it's kind of like, how do I, like, I have this image in my mind, of like people like trying to get through to that next level, but they keep sliding back because it's like, how am I going to pay my bills? Or I'm spending all
exactly.
this time working trying to break through. So
Exactly. And that's what I meant by, what's the core message is that you have to operate from a level of not where you are, but what is to come, right? Acting as if you already have the client. What would that feel like? And operating from that feeling, because success really comes in coaching comes from operating from a level of emotion and poise, right, and gratitude, because then you can give that to others. Because if you're, I've had many months in the past where I would operate from that same exact mindset, scarcity. When's the next client coming in? Like, I have this bill, I have that bill, and stuff like that. And so Tony says, where focus goes, energy flows. What you focus on, you magnify. So if you're constantly focusing on, and this for any area of life, right? In your relationship, you're focused on, what is my wife not giving me, or what is my husband not giving me, my significant other not giving me, what is my boss not giving me, right? You continue to build on that, and it's almost like, um, what came to mind is like it's a wall, right? And each thought is a little brick that you're laying down. It's like, oh, I'm not getting enough of this, I'm not getting enough of that. And so eventually you build this big old wall that blinds you from reality, from the beauty that's around you, the abundance, right? The beautiful energy that's within us all and around us, that like I said, it's so easy to forget because you're so focused on like all those things that are in front of you, which are lack, scarcity, fear, doubt, negativity. And so, like I said, the way to do that is to really master your mindset, change your focus up, and really operate from this new level of emotion and energy, which is a level of abundance, a level of gratitude. So that's why it's very important for people to meditate. It's very important for people to tap into their source, whatever that is, if it's God or infinite intelligence, right? Because then you can rely on something outside of yourself, right? You can trust on something that's outside of yourself that will be able to guide you. And so that's what I'm saying. That business is a spiritual journey, because at one point you have to realize, I can't do this on my own, right? And no man is an island, so you have to reach out for help, whether it's, like I said, spiritually, or literally you reach out, which actually is the best thing for anyone to do, because um, I mean, look at anybody who's ever had an addiction. It's very tough to break out of that on your own, right? But when
totally.
you reach out for help, it will allow you to accelerate that growth and really create that lasting change. But no, man, yeah, that whole fear mindset thing, and scarcity and trying to break through is basically it. Most people won't pass. a large percentage of coaches will have to give up because they never reached out for help, or they never figured out a way to really break through that sliding. You know, what I imagine is like someone's trying to run up a very, very shiny slide with socks on, you know, versus like shoes or something that's going to grip them. And
Yeah.
so that's why they keep sliding, because they don't have the right mindset, right? They don't have the right tools to be able to grow.
That, it's funny because it always comes back. You just hit it right on the head, and this is a huge realization that I had not too long ago.
Yeah.
Is when I was focused on working with people and helping people, like I really had this inner desire to serve
Yes.
people, and I thought that it all had to come from within me, and a huge shift where I
Oh,
suddenly realized, like, whoa, hold up. Like, it's, you just said it, it's the
yeah.
tools that you're able to provide. And so, like, people, I think that there's a lot of people out there who, like, they get like this hesitation and this fear to move
Yeah.
forward because it's all on my, like, what's my brain going to
Yeah.
be able to produce for this person.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, man, like, so taking these steps, going from, you know either like job mindset or the typical entrepreneurial route of starting a business to
Yeah.
working with people, like, that's a pretty significant journey to go through. Can you share a little bit about your story and what got you into coaching?
Coaching, yeah, no, absolutely. So I'll start with well, ever since I was young, I had people come to me for advice and for guidance, and mainly because I was very studious, right? I was very studious, so I had a lot of information, right? I always loved to read and stuff like that. So part of it was people came for my intelligence, right? So it's like, Luis is a very smart boy or guy or whatever. Like, you know, let me talk to him. Mainly, like for instance, one example, two big examples. Like one time I had a relationship at that point, and a buddy of mine came to me, was like, Luis, you know, this is going on with my girlfriend. Like, what do you think? And what's crazy is like I started to get all these insights, and I would ask him questions, and he would start to realize like, oh yeah, you know, that's true. I didn't think about it that way, stuff like that. So I always had this innate wisdom per se to really be able to look at things from a totally different perspective. And then also I realized that when my parents would ask me for advice, right, and they would ask me to kind of guide certain situations, even though I was like, you know, the middle child, not necessarily the oldest or the youngest or whatever. And so that always was like, you know, fascinating to me. Like, they're coming to me, it's like, why me? You know, it's like they're supposed to be the ones that are kind of guiding me. And but I always loved that. I always, you know, part of that also is Tony Robbins has these six human needs. One of the needs is to feel significant, to feel like you're special, to feel like you're not just, you know, some like everyone else, but you're unique.
Yeah.
And so that also drove me like, okay, cool. This is makes me feel good. You know, it makes me feel like I matter. And so fast forward throughout, you know, college and through all that, I always wanted to do something in business. And so I initially went into sales, and I went into sales at a multi-billion dollar company. It was a huge company. And I crushed it. Like I made multiple six figures before I turned like 24.
Wow.
Um, I felt like I had everything right on paper. I had like, you know, the girlfriend, which was a fiance at that point. I had the BMW, right? I had the job. I had all that. I had the you know, top tier university diploma. The problem was that I wasn't fulfilled. You know, the
Yeah.
problem was that I felt something was missing. I felt like, you know, it kind of sounds selfish, but it's like, is this it? You know, even though some people would be like, dude, you're crazy. Like, you have it all. Like, what else do you want? But like I said, it's a spiritual journey because it helps you realize that there's more beyond materialism. There's more beyond labels, right? And like being seen as successful versus feeling successful. And I want to repeat that, right? There's a difference between being seen as successful versus you personally knowing and feeling that you're successful,
Yeah.
right? So for
Totally.
me, that all came when I would look around, and you know, I remember my cubicles and people just kind of Jim Rohn talks about drifting, and Napoleon Hill also talks about just drifting and not really having a purpose. And so that's what really scared me. Like, man, I don't want to be 60 or 50, whatever, and retire and then say, what have I done with my life? Nothing really. Like, I sure maybe I enjoyed a high level of financial success, but what did I contribute? What did I give back? What was my legacy? And so that really drove me to start this whole process of like figuring out who am I? What do I want to do? What's my mission? And all these different things, man. And I stumbled on Tony Robbins and really dove deep into that world. I've attended now like 5 different live events. I'm certified as through Tony Robbins coaching methodology. Um, and so that's been my journey, is really, going from like, what's crazy though is that like when I was at the top financially, when I took the leap, part of me felt like so now looking back, part of me felt like I rushed that just because I was like, okay, I need to get out of here. And because I had that safety net, I didn't build out my client list. I didn't build out like my marketing for my coaching. So I basically like said, I really want to be a coach. And then I took that deep dive, and I'm like, oh shoot, now what? Right? It's like, where do I go from here? Like, and so there was many, 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 many times when I felt like giving up, like going back to corporate, like,
Yeah.
leaving this dream of mine, just because it is very challenging. And when you're trying to figure it all out, like you said, right, with the internet age nowadays, everything is online. And so the thing that a coach will really give you is direct feedback and personalized guidance,
Hmm.
right? And an acceleration of success in terms of results, because you can go and piece everything together, but by then sometimes new technology comes out, new strategies, right? New things, and you're like, holy crap, like when do I stop learning and when do I start implementing to be able to be able to move forward? So that's what happened for me, is I decided to invest in a coach, and I decided to invest in multiple coaches, business coaches. Um, Kind of the most well-known one for many people who are in entrepreneurship is like Gerard Adams, someone like that who's in social media, someone like Yahya Bakar. Those were my direct mentors. So yeah, man, that's been my journey, is like going from corporate to feeling unfulfilled to saying, okay, I want to do something else. And also part of that I didn't mention is that initially I had many fears to call myself like a coach. Like, I remember coming back to the whole human need of feeling significant. To be honest, I felt like it wasn't going to be enough. Like it wasn't going to be enough for my status, right? Like, shoot, I just went from like the highest of levels, not ever, but for me at least at that
Hmm.
moment, to now like starting from zero, and like, who am I? There was an identity crisis. Like, what do I call myself? Like, who am I? And how do I communicate that to people? And not only that, but will they accept me? Will they say that, will they trust me, right? Or will they say like, no, he's coming from that sales background. He just wants to do this for money and stuff like that. So like I said, there were so many fears around that, man. And it all shifted when I decided to invest in myself, mainly invest in direct guidance, because then you're not trying to piece things together through online courses or books or little clips and contents from the social sphere, but you're actually literally sitting down with someone, and they're digging deep and they're giving you those insights like that.
Yeah.
So yep, that's
Yeah.
been that's been my journey so far, man.
Well, and being able to get that direct guidance from somebody who has been there,
Yes,
that's priceless. Like
right.
because they've already walked that path. And something that you were saying, kind of struck me as earlier you were talking about that wall that you build up with those little bricks,
Oh, yeah.
and eventually you don't see like we're going along. And something that I've learned from working with coaches is that like I know for me personally, like I'll be going along and I don't see the areas, like I don't know what I don't know. And so like I may be experiencing running into a wall and it's like I can't figure out why. Well, from the outside looking in, from somebody who's already walked that path, like it's perfectly clear what's going on. And then
Yeah.
they're able to provide that one-on-one feedback that really makes the difference in order to take those huge leaps. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
anyway, that's what I hear you saying. Out of what you do when you're working with people, what is your favorite part about this journey, about what you're doing?
For me, it's when people say, like I said before, I didn't think about it that way, or like there's this aha moment, there's this like complete shift, and it's from like they go from a mindset or a position or an emotional state of fear and doubt to one of hope, to one of like, wow, I can actually do this, to one of really seeing the light, right? Seeing the
Yeah.
light at the end of the tunnel. And so really the word that comes to me is hope, is giving
Cool.
people hope, giving people not just hope, but actually the ability to go out there and move away from, so Tony Robbins calls that going from slavery to freedom. Because you're a slave. I was a slave at one point to my fears, to my doubts, to my worries. I was a
Yeah.
slave to my subconscious belief system that would tell me I wasn't enough. That told me that I wasn't never gonna get to the place that I wanted to get to, right? So once you can really unlock the insights and the wisdom needed to move away from a place of lack and scarcity and what I call slavery, you can then move to a place of freedom. And mainly it's not necessarily financial freedom, but a freedom to choose, a freedom to decide and say, I'm going to live today with love in my heart or happiness in my heart. This is a really great book. I don't know if people have ever read this. It's a very old book by Mandino, called The Greatest Salesman in the World. Old book. And one of the core principles that he teaches, the first one is recognizing that love is a very powerful business tool, a very powerful business tool. And it's kind of weird to think like, what, love and business, like that doesn't make sense. But what it really is about is that human connection, and saying I love myself enough to go out there and give it my best shot so that I can see other people thrive because I love them and because I love seeing other people thrive. I love seeing other people succeed. That's totally different than saying like, oh, if I am not being successful, then I don't want to see so and so succeed. Like, hopefully it doesn't go well for them, right? It's like that's a totally different mindset. And that's what happens sometimes is when you're I mean, I did it all the time. I would compare myself to other coaches who were like on level 20 and I was on level 2, and like they say, don't compare your chapter 20 to someone else's chapter 2 or chapter 1. But it's so easy to do it, with social media. You see all these people on there, you're like, why are
Yeah.
they successful? Why do they have all this? But that's the whole point, is that they're on a different journey. You're on your own journey. So for anyone listening, you have to understand that one, you have to recognize, you have to figure out and then recognize, where are you on this journey, right? Where are you on this journey? Because then you could go from there, right? And what that means is you have to come to truths. You have to recognize what are those truths that maybe you haven't accepted, right? Because if you don't accept that there's something that needs to change, you'll never change it.
Right.
I say that from experience. So I decided to do all that. It really shifted for me. But yeah, it's a go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say. So, so what do you think? Like, if you had to give one piece of advice, like to the people out there that are thinking about, like diving into the coaching world, or the people out there that are already a coach and they're looking to really up their game, like, what is it that you have seen that stops most coaches from showing up and building a successful business?
Yeah. So what I see that stops most everyone is fear. The fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being accepted, the fear of failure, the fear of wasting your time, or all these different fears. And so, if I were to give you one thing, is to be able to control, manipulate, or direct, or influence really your emotions, your thoughts, your emotions, and your behavior. Your thoughts, your emotion, and your behavior in that order. Because when you can control your thoughts, that will control the way you feel. And then if you can control the way you feel, that will, if you feel really good versus like, I feel tired, I feel drained, I feel exhausted, that will affect the way you show up every single day, right? And so something as simple as focusing on gratitude, right? That's why I brought up this book, because his whole thing is like, hey, if you want to connect with someone, just focus on love and giving, So again, like I said, if you're in that space of fear and doubt, come back to gratitude, come back to love, come back to grace, come back to an infinite intelligence, a God, or something inside of you that can guide you past that. And most of the times, it's something as simple as literally meditating every single day for 30 minutes and thinking about and feeling, really feeling like those emotions of gratitude. Tony
So
Robbins has go ahead.
I was going to say, how do you, so when somebody, let's say that they say, okay, sit down and meditate for 30 minutes,
Yes.
how would you recommend them to create that feeling of gratitude inside
Yeah,
of them?
so I was going to go into that. Tony Robbins
Sorry.
has a phenomenal guided visualization and meditation. And so if you literally look up like Tony Robbins priming, he will guide you through that process. And it's very simple. You first, do a few breathing exercises to just ground yourself. And then you focus on three events. So, maybe one event in the past that made you feel excited, maybe one event in the past that made you feel absolutely grateful and where you were crying tears of joy, right? But really feeling it and stepping into that moment. And maybe another event in the past that you felt passionate, maybe with an intimate relationship, right? Because that will drive your emotions, and
Hmm.
your emotions will drive your behavior. That's what I'm saying. And so once you can influence those thoughts and emotions, you will then start show up differently. And it's a habit. It's not something like that's another thing for me. I used to think like, oh, I'll do it once, I'll meditate once, I'll do this and that once, and then it'll last me for a while. But it doesn't work that way. It's not like when you fuel. It's not when you go and fill up a tank of gas that it lasts you. It doesn't happen that way. Why? Because life is constantly happening.
Yeah.
Like someone could send me a text and that could mess up my thoughts. So I could see something online and I could compare myself. That could mess up my thoughts. That's why you have to do it every single day, because every single day something may and probably will come up, mess up your vibe, right, or your mood, and so you have to take control by refocusing. I'll leave you with this: you will become an ultimate success once you can master your focus. Once you can master what you focus on, because if you're focusing on all the negative, all the doubt, all the fear in your life, you're gonna feel all that, right? And then if you associate certain meanings to that, like, oh, well, if I don't have clients, that means I'm not good enough, or oh, if that person said no on the sales call, that means that I'll never get to that level, right? So
Right.
watch your focus, because your focus will determine the meanings that you give to a certain situation. So once you can control those two, it will allow you to operate from a emotional space of gratitude, abundance, right? Grace, all those different emotions, and then you'll be able to show up differently.
It's when you said focus as well, something that popped into my head is what we were talking about earlier, is with all the distractions that are out there, everybody telling you you have to do this to be a
Yes.
good coach, do this to be a good coach. Like if you're not focused on what you're trying to create, where you're going,
Yeah.
or if you're focused on lack, like every
Yes.
time somebody tells you you can make $100,000 a year doing this, like you're gonna get pulled off, and I can attest to that because I've been there. It's like I get
Right.
diverted here, and then like next thing you know, you've just like wasted 2 to 3 months going in a direction that doesn't serve you or your ultimate purpose. And so, like that
It's big.
focus,
Yeah.
that's dynamite. That's a
Yeah.
dynamite
It's huge.
advice.
Yeah, man, because yeah, it's so easy to spin your wheels and go off in different directions. But once you decide to focus, and notice how we didn't even talk about tactics or how to close or how to sell, right? Because like I said, I can give you all that. But if you're not taking care of yourself emotionally, mentally, right? Spiritually, then you will not be able to implement these tools. And so that's why today the intention was to come to that truth of like watch your focus, watch your emotional. Tony Robbins calls it your emotional home.
Yeah,
What's your emotional home? Where do you live? Where do you live? Not like physically, like I live in California, but like where do you live? Do you live in joy every day, or do you live in worry? Do you live in doubt? Do you live in perfectionism and comparison, criticism?
totally.
And so that's coming to truth, right? To realize, holy crap, wait, I actually doubt myself a lot. I judge myself a lot, and you need to snap out of that.
Heck yeah. So, how can people connect with you? Like, how can they
Yes.
find you?
Yeah, no, find me on Instagram at Luminary Louis, Lui, or Facebook. You can look for me, Luis, initial G, and then my last name, Noriega, Noriega. And then you could, just reach out to me there, and I'm constantly putting up posts and content and, all this advice to really get people to wake up, because that's what it's about, is for them to realize, like, oh crap, I'm straying off the path. I need to get back into it.
So, and I'll leave links for all that down below in the description. So anybody who wants to connect with Luis, go ahead, find him there. And then the last question that I want to drop on you is, if somebody 1,000 years from now is going back and they're reviewing your life, like, what is it that you want them to recognize that you gave as a gift, or you taught to humanity?
Yeah. So for me, it would come back to my brand and what I stand for, and that legacy of being a light, right? Creating leaders, creating role models. And so the other day while I was meditating and praying, I got this idea where it was like, my duty, my responsibility is to help create more than 1 million leaders in my lifetime. Right. And so, like, that's what I want. That's what I want to leave, is if I can create that ripple effect. Imagine, right? You're creating one leader, and then they get inspired to be not just any leader, but a servant leader, a role model, right? Someone who wants to influence others. So then they create their own set. So it's like this tree, right? Of like, this person influenced these people and these people and these people and these people. So I like to call that multi-generational impact. Right? Because if you can impact a father, and he shows up differently with his wife, they'll show up differently as parents for their kids, and then the kid will grow up and say, oh, my parents were like this, I want to be like that with my sons and daughters, right? Or if you influence a child or someone young at an early age, they can influence those around them, or like I said, they can grow up to influence their successors. And so that's what really lights me up, is that multi-generational impact, creating leaders, and more importantly, creating these role models, right, that people can look up to. What I call luminary leaders, leaders that are illuminating the way, that are guiding the way. They're saying, you know what, this is how you can do it. Come this route. Don't go over there and live in fear and darkness, but come to the light and recognize that you have a power inside of you, the power to influence, the power to lead. And it's scary and it's fearful, but you got to do it. And so stepping up and really elevating to that next level.
Man, that is beautiful. And I want to thank you for giving me that vision, because I think, like, we look around the world today, and we'd be foolish if we didn't recognize that there is a lot of really ugly stuff happening in our world. And like, the direction that we're going may seem like it's full of despair. But right. It's people like you that are out there doing what you're doing and helping people recognize the power that they hold within themselves. And it's easy to look at the world and be like, we're never going to be able to fix it. But like, when you talk about multi-generational, like that's the beautiful thing that humanity has, is we have time. And if you can make that impact, over that time, like that's where humanity is going to find its next level in evolution, like the type of life that I know that you and I both, the vision that we have for the future of what humanity is capable of. And man, you are a beacon of light, and I know that your work is going to have a massive ripple effect. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Glad to have you. Absolutely.
All right, so everybody in the audience, definitely go connect, and with the links down below, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Excellent. Take care.